Okay, so we reached the end of this test to tell a story, I guess. How was it today? I think we worked more on tests and finishing everything. We didn't implement that much production code. How was it for you?
Uh, it was okay. I like that um, we took time to discuss about the application of tests or why we write some tests more than others.
Mm-hmm.
We've been doing this now for a few times, so it's quite easy to find names that are okay for both of us.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly we did design work that was not so much tied to test. I think
Mm-hmm.
that we, well, I would say that if we want to learn more about this approach, we need more constraints
Mm-hmm.
because it was more like uh, something that is quite easy for us today. We didn't go to some places where we never knew what was going to happen. Um,
So, what do you have in mind? Any constraints about like that? What that you'd like to use?
I was thinking about this. Right now, I don't.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but I'm pretty sure that this would allow us to go further. I think that it would be interesting to see how we can maybe uh, have tests that have less or less repetitions of themselves. Like if we look at the test we have here, well, I'm not going to say that it's 5 times the same test, but it's very similar. Like
Because you have more data or more like with one transaction or two transactions. Is that what you're saying?
yes, and we have different stories, but not really. Actually, we have like the same story, but that is slightly different from each time.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, I mean that's okay, but um, I think that the value of spending time on finding good names for tests is not here.
Mm-hmm.
It's more when you're going to explore different ways of seeing the same problem and having different stories that are really, really different from each other. And today we had not this. So I don't know exactly what kind of constraint we could have to enforce this difference and force us to explore different ways. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that would be something that I would be really willing to try.
Well, in our test, there is still some duplication. I think we could make them shorter and smaller.
Yes.
It's this decision that you take sometimes if you want to have the everything in a test, everything, all the setup, or if you just want to reuse it and make it shorter. But sometimes for some programmers is more difficult to understand. So it's a balance. I don't know. At this moment we left it like that, but we could definitely make it shorter. And I think especially with some frameworks that are typically made for BDD, you could make big the big premise like the given, and then put different whens depending on different thens. So then maybe in that case it will look more like what you wanted to have, like the story.
Mm, I don't. I'm not sure because when we do this, we tend to actually have something that is closer uh, to mathematics than literature.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that we are like having factorization of stuff. And what I would like to have is something that is a bit different, like do we really have to have this repetition and then use this kind of frameworks, or can we have a different approach that would allow us to have tests that are very different?
So I think the main difference is here that we perform automated checks, and these automated checks, because we make unit, we focus on the unit, are small. That's why we need variation to check them from different points of views. If we'd like to look for the story, probably the story needs to be at the top and use these checks.
Well, it could be, or it's calling to oh yes, maybe that's it. Maybe we could write this test code using, like you said, a higher level DSL.
Yes.
And that would be really, I think, the thing I want.
That's what I'm thinking, because this is the atomic level, and you never have a story with atomic level. Like when you hear a story or you read a story, you don't the writer won't say something like the color and the shape of each object and the number of degrees and how the weight and the texture of the material and so on. These are the small details, the atomic stuff. But the story is upper, so it says I have a glass, and that's all. It doesn't matter how big it is, what color it has. So it's more abstract, and I think that's what we need to do. But in order to have those stories in software, you still need to have these small tests.
Yes.
But then on a higher level, you either use them to generate or to create the bigger story that's more abstract, or you ignore some of them.
Yes.
Okay, so thank you so much for pairing with me, and as always, until next time, have fun coding.
Thank you very much. Bye.